Why do you think people struggle with discipline?
Because we're so used to having what we want, how we want it, when we want it. And sometimes people spoil us. We spoil ourselves, and we don't have discipline no more to just wait no more. And we don't have no virtue in us to be able to wait for later. And so now, because we don't practice waiting, we want to get in front of the line, right?
I think a lot of times we don't even realize, like, discipline requires sacrifice. And sometimes we're not willing to make the sacrifices. But in order to be disciplined, something in you has to die.
You
know,
die.
whether it's the excuses, whether it's the
That's
laziness.
so powerful what you just said. Every time you go higher, there is something you have to leave with you, right? Because say if you was getting up and this chair got up with you, that's too much of a weight.
Right.
The chair got to stay there.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true. Yeah.
And I'm going to leave. And there's sometimes when you go into new heights, new levels, there's just some people you can't take with you.
You can't take with you.
You know, because it's just a weight. It's why we going here? Why we got to do that? And it's just a weight. It's just time pause. It's just time stance. It's just, and you love them, but you have to love them from afar because you have to still get to your destiny and your purpose.
What's one of the biggest sacrifices that you've had to make in order to be able to maintain your disciplined lifestyle?
That's heavy. She coming with the heavy ones today. Ooh, wee.
Go ahead, talk to him. Man, what is it like?
Some of the things that I really love to do and indulge myself in, you know, sometimes when you go into the next level, you have to leave some things that you like to do alone.
For sure.
Some people that you really love, some people that you really, you know, but they're still in the puddle that you can't stay in no more.
Ooh,
right?
In the puddle.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like,
we trying to get out the puddle.
You know, I'm trying to get to the ocean and you talking deep, but you swimming in shallow water.
Oh, okay.
And I'm having a good time here. It's a lovely place. I'm trying to go somewhere different and beyond here. Been there, done that. Let's go to something different.
So the biggest thing you have had to sacrifice, you would say, is the people in your life?
I'm gonna say people in my life is one of the biggest things, but another biggest thing is myself and comfortability. Being comfortable with the people.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things that I have to sacrifice because you get comfortable, you get in a good place, and you want to stay there.
Yeah.
You want to live there because, okay, I got here, this is great for me, and I'm good here now. But no, there's more.
There's a lot more.
And you can't stay here because right here, it's over. So I'm gonna just tell you, for instance, you know, I was somewhere and a guy came into the facility where I was, and he looked like he was still in 1994. He had a long t-shirt on all the way down to his calves with one of those long chains, and he was still living in that time. We in 2022, but he's still in 1994. And the times have changed. And so you have to change with the time still, because you can be so comfortable with that time that you will miss the time that you're supposed to go in.
So in order to be disciplined, or in order to do discipline well, you got to get uncomfortable?
It's a must. Because discipline is uncomfortability. It's getting out of your norm. It's being deviant. It's leaving.
Yeah.
You know, and you always got to get uncomfortable and shake things up.
Why do you think people are so unwilling to get uncomfortable?
Because they're comfortable and they're good right where they are. And they made where they wanted to be, but they don't know that God got better for them and more for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes somebody to pull them out and tell them and show them this is where you can be.
I think a lot of times when it comes to just discipline, like, we can look at it from the structural standpoint, the rules. But right now, what I'm having, the conversation I'm having to have with myself, you gotta recognize that sometimes it's beyond discipline. Like, sometimes it's really having a conversation with yourself and saying, like, are you not feeling are you not feeling worthy of this? You know, is that the reason why you're not disciplined in this area?
And that part can be a very detrimental part to you. because of your worth and your self-worth, and the people around you don't see you worthy. And so that's why you have to get uncomfortable and get to a new people.
Because like if I can be disciplined, like again, going back to what I was saying earlier, if I could be disciplined in this area when it comes to my job, when it comes to like my marriage, but I'm not necessarily disciplined when it comes to purpose, like, you can be disciplined. So why aren't you applying it over here?
Distractions. You're too distracted that you don't see.
I think it's distractions, but also sometimes we're willing to do it for other people, but we're not willing to
do it for ourselves.
And
that's
not
a
doing
great
it
statement.
for ourselves,
that's
you
true.
have to ask yourself, so why am I not willing to do it for myself?
That's true, because we don't feel like we're worthy.
And those are the deeper conversations when we're seeing like, okay, I'm not I have the ability to be disciplined, but I'm not disciplined in these other areas. Yeah. That's when we have to have some real conversations with ourselves and say, what am I saying to myself? What am I saying about myself? What am I thinking about myself?
Yeah. I made a post saying discipline is love.
Okay, so let's explore there real quick, because I think oftentimes when it comes to discipline, it's all about it's rules.
Thanks.
And I think that's like the biggest drawback. So for me, being a person who, as a creative and also as a person who has authoritative issues, when I hear rules, I'm like, yeah, nah.
That ain't for me.
That ain't for me. So that's why it's always been a struggle for me to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Like it's always been something that I have to like be very intentional about. And there was this video that Will Smith did, and he was talking about how discipline is self-love.
Yeah.
And I really do feel like if we change our perspective on discipline and don't look at it as like a whole bunch of rules, but really look at it as love, as self-love, then it allows for us to tap in and be more consistent with it.
It's preserving us.
Discipline is us consistently making good decisions.
At the end of the day, it's the good decisions, because, it's like, let me save this for tomorrow instead of spending it for today.
Yeah.
And we always going to have to work on it, because the flesh is weak, but the spirit is always willing. I remember one time I was working out and had got a new coach, and I'm already in shape. I'm cold but he gave me a whole nother workout, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. And my mind was saying, you can't do this, you can't go through this. But I'm like, shut up, mind. Yeah. You do what I tell you to do. You work for me. Because sometimes we get comfortable in our settings, and sometimes we have to change the paradigm, and we have to talk to ourselves and change ourselves and let our mind know, because the mind would be like, I can't do this. As soon as you're doing something, you'd be like, oh no, this is too much. I can't do this. But you have to talk to yourself and say, I can do all things. That's when the word really comes in, and the word makes itself plain and it makes itself alive to you, to say the word so that the word can be an affirmation to you. Because when you speak those things that are not as though they were, then the mouth trains the mind. Because you have to speak it to the mind, because the mind will tell you what you can't do.
Yeah.
It'll try to tell you ain't able. You look what the people was talking about you. They was talking about you about this. They was doing this about you. And then the mind will just take over and say, I'm not able to do this. And, you go into a depression. But then that's when you got to say, I can do all things through Christ.
So for you, having a disciplined mindset, what has been the key? Is it
my
your
faith, man?
Yeah.
My faith in God has really been the key to speak it out, to proclaim it, to will it into me. And even if it looks bad, I know that God woke me up today for purpose. And my belief in him, that is just second to none, that keeps me going, even when it don't look like we're going nowhere. And faith without work is dead. So I had the faith, but then I got to go knock on the door. I got to go ask. I got to go do the calls. I got to go put the work in so that those opportunities can open up for me.
I think that's like the trickiest thing too, though. Like, and it's the hardest thing when you're not seeing the fruits of your labor yet.
That part, yeah. So, it can be frustrating.
Yeah. So for you, outside of obviously like with scripture and just knowing that you have to really apply faith, what other things are you doing to make sure that in those moments where you're not necessarily seeing the fruits that you want to see, like how are you staying disciplined? How are you staying the course?